Welcome to a very hefty slice of Britain, because this week is yet another recycled car in the world of Horizon 5. So in the meantime this week we're taking a look at the 2021 Aston Martin DBX, starting off with a 543 brake horsepower, 516 foot-pounds of torque and weighing nearly 5,000 pounds. This is one very heavy SUV indeed. If you want one of these, you can pick it up via the Forza Horizon 5 car pass, and I've got to say, from what I've seen so far, the front of it looks absolutely evil. Going to the side, it looks like pretty much any other SUV in existence, and then we've got the tail lights, which do remind me a lot of the, I guess, more recent Aston Martins as well, so I guess they're kind of keeping the trend. Going to the inside, we've got a lot of, I guess, like digital dials in front of us. Are they digital dials? They look like it. We've also got some buttons off to our right-hand side, and now let's go ahead and take a listen to this thing. If you want to know where you can find the car pass, you can find it right here on the buy and sell tab. In the meantime, let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got for this thing, because we're going to jump straight to conversion and see what we have in the wonderful world of engine swaps. We've got a fair few available, including the 5.2 litre V10, a 5.2 litre V12 twin turbo. Our local mechanic is currently streaming and I'll get to that in a bit. We've got a racing V12 and also a 3 litre V6 twin turbo as well, pushing us to over 1,000 brake horsepower just from the engine alone. This thing also starts out all-wheel drive from stock, but you can go ahead and make this thing rear-wheel drive if you so wish to. I'm not quite sure why, but you can. As for aero and appearance, let's go ahead and take a look at the front, where we've just got ourselves a little bit of Forza aero, but this time with no front tow hook. And then going to the back, I've been informed the Forza wing is, well, it's in a little bit of a weird place for something like this, don't you think? Now, the reason that I mentioned Mechanic Mac earlier is because he's put out a tune for this thing, so let's go ahead and bring up the share code real quick. Hopefully we should see it. There it is. Feel free to go ahead and grab that for yourself. And I'm going to go ahead, download and install, and we're going to see just what the stats of this thing are. So with these upgrades installed, we are now a lot lighter at 3,773 pounds in weight, with the stock 543 brake horsepower, lateral Gs have gone up to 1.9, and we're at the top of A-class. So with these upgrades installed, we're now over at the paint shop. Let's go ahead and take a look. There's nothing in advance like normal. Let's go ahead and take a look. We've got a few manufacturer colours. We've got ourselves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different colours. And I've got to say, I kind of like this, I want to say sort of champagne gold-ish, but it's also kind of mixed in with a very light brown as well. Oh, and then we can also go and rock some lime green as well, just because why not? So I find it interesting with these things. They've had such a short production run, and Mac is live again. Wonderful. I'm going to have to keep account of all this. So far, it were 2. But I do find it interesting that these things have had such a short production run, approximately between 2020 to 2023. And away we go. We're now up against approximately 11 other racers of various assorted SUVs, styles, and pretty much everything else. And we've got to try and get this thing from where we are now all the way up to first place, which could be very, very interesting indeed. I don't want to see how it actually handles the corner, because this thing is a massive SUV. We're cutting quite a lot of the corner, so I'm glad we're designed to do that. And we've actually ended up out of 9th up to 7th. Not bad. I mean, not great either, but not awful. Also, after a little bit of research, apparently they are still making these even as late as 2025. This year, apparently they're still making them even now, which is honestly very, very interesting. And all the brakes apparently they're meant to be pretty decent, and they are. Okay, cool, I'll take that. All right, up into 5th we go. Okay, maybe make that 4th instead. Now, the exact number of how many of these were made isn't really clear, but there's approximately over 6,000 currently on the roads worldwide, which I do find very interesting. There's 6,000 of these things. And if you want one of these as well, you've got to be prepared to have very, very deep pockets, because these things can cost in the range of 197 all the way up to 245,000 pounds. Very, very pricey. And for my overseas viewers, this is how much it is in American dollars. I mean, I get it's an Aston Martin and all, but I think that price range is very, very expensive for an SUV. Right, 95%, one more turn to go. You know how this works by now. Let's go ahead and make our way around there. The finish line is right here, and across we go sideways with a little bit of style and a slight clonk off the wall at first place, and a time of 2 minutes 11.498. So, a very interesting result there for the wonderful Aston Martin DBX, and now let's go ahead and take a look at what's on the backstage this week. We've got ourselves the Kia EV6 GT and the Audi R8 versus the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and also the Alfa Romeo 4C as well. Got 2 very good cars, but I've got to say, I think my vote this week might go towards the Ioniq and the Alfa Romeo. If you agree, let me know in the comments. And so we go from one tune from Mechanic Mac straight through to another, because this time now we're looking at Wheel Slow, which is interesting because it is our wheelie build. Let's go ahead and bring up the share code. There it is. Feel free to grab that for yourself. I know I just said wheelie build, but technically it's our drag build. So let's go ahead, download it and see what we've got. So with this tune, we're even lighter than before at 3,424 pounds with a whopping 1,191 brake horsepower. So let's install it and go and give it a drive. Right, here we are now over at the back of the Festour. Let's go ahead ahead and see what we can get from this thing. Can we get a wheelie out of the SUV? Just about. I don't know how, but we did. All right, here we are now over at the edge of the drag strip. Let's go ahead, get ourselves on launch control, and away we go with the giant green machine. Let's go ahead and see what we can get out of this thing. I'm hoping for something pretty decent. It's got a lot of power, but it is also very, very heavy, because after all, it is an SUV. So let's go ahead and see what do we get through the camera. We got ourselves 178, and we have reached basically the top of the gear, and we're crossing the edge of the runway at 195, and also another one for the Mac Live counter. And as you've guessed by now, yeah, still no brakes. Right, well, now it's our turn to go ahead and have a go with this thing, so we're going to go ahead, slap back in that racing of V12. We're going to keep it all-wheel drive this time, and of course, you know, we've got to do it by now. We're going to go over to aspiration and slap on some twin turbos. In case you're wondering why, it's time to go ahead and make this thing a bit of a top speed build. I know, top speed out of an SUV, crazy. But then again, crazy can be fun too. So with all of our upgrades installed, we're now at 3,579 pounds in weight, and we are back up to 1,191 brake horsepower. However, now the fun bit is we've got to go ahead and try and tune this thing. I could be here a while, so be back in a bit. In the meantime, here's a look at this week's Forzathon shop. We've got ourselves a Koenigsegg 1 over here, the backstage pass. We've got a jumper, which I'm not going to try and pronounce the name of. We've also got an equally long named Deberti designed Toyota Tacoma, the Surf's Up emote, the Horizon Super Wheelspin, and the regular Horizon Wheelspin too. And now, out to the motorway. And now it's time to see how close have we gotten to the great today. We have still passed it. We did get close. Some would say so close, yet so far. Anyway, here we are now over at the edge of the motorway, so we're going to go ahead and floor it. Let's go ahead and see what we can get out of this thing. It's a very strong launch from the DBX. Let's go ahead, floor it, and see just what we get. I'm hoping it's going to be good, but then again, this thing is a massive SUV, so I'm not holding my breath. And out the speed zone, 214.38, quite low, but then again, like I said, this thing is an SUV, so who knows, maybe the downhill and speed camera might have some better scores. Scores? Speeds? Ah, you know what I'm on about. Any second we should see, hopefully, there's the camera, 233.51, going downhill, 236, 237, 238, 239, nearly at 240. Not quite there, but we did get very close indeed. And on the brakes we go, let's try and see how good is this thing stopping distance. The answer to that is kind of half decent, I guess. Right, one last thing for the Aston Martin. You guessed it, it's time to go ahead and drift the family SUV. Let's go ahead and throw this thing in and see just what we get. Again, over 1,000 brake horsepower, a lot of weight behind this thing though, so that could either make it easy or fantastic or terrible to drift. And at the moment, 39,600 and something, not too bad of a score. Unlike my English, which apparently was terrible back there. Right, time for round number 2. Now we're going back the other way. Let's go and see what we can do. We've got 39,000 to beat. I don't know how easy or how hard it's going to be. Let's go ahead and see. And there we go, 37,588 points. And a slight clunk of the wall, but they'll be fine. It'll buff out, right? In the meantime, that is the Aston Martin DBX. A very interesting vehicle indeed. Is it worth picking up? Well, I'd say if you want something a little bit different, then definitely go ahead and pick this thing up. Other than that, I think it'll be fine just where it is back in the car pass. Not to mention the car pass also costs a little bit of money, so not really worth the investment. Well, unless you're an Aston Martin investor. Anyway, I thank you very much for watching. Feel free to go ahead and like, share, comment, subscribe, all that cool stuff. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tech out. See ya! Right, what car's next?